Technology has been evolving for decades, but unfortunately, this hasn't improved the way that students are learning digitally. What are y'all's thoughts on this?
We've seen the classrooms completely kind of change over time with the development of computers in the late 90s and going into the 2000s. We saw iPads come out, we saw smartphones, and now Kindles and all these different variations and forms of technologies throughout class forms. But unfortunately, I think it's way more than that. It's all about the curriculum and creating that education for each person individually that they can kind of learn and evolve, not only getting those core concepts, but also the education that's going to further them when they decide to go to, maybe they want to go to college, maybe they don't, but if they do, then maybe when they get to college, they already have that general understanding to where when they go out into the real world, they have more of a concept of what they want to do as opposed to just having general knowledge of physics and algebra and all the actual applicable skills and an education that's going to prepare them for when they do go out into the workforce.
If there's one thing we've noticed is that the education system hasn't changed until it's been forced to change. You know, when the pandemic happened in 2019, that was when the first time they actually saw that, like, hey, we're actually going to start to take advantage of the fact that we can do online learning. And I feel like even with that change, we're still so behind on the potential that we can have with education. And what I mean by that is that I feel like with AI now, we shouldn't have the issue of kids can get individual learning programs, because I feel like if there's online programs and online classes, that these programs should be able to analyze, okay, I'm doing really well on this set of math problems and really poorly on these. So it'll give you individual learning lessons on what you need to focus on, what you need to learn, instead of just this outdated, education that we have going on right now.
Well, I think here are my full true thoughts on this. I think it starts early on when kids are first getting into school, kindergarten, first grade, preschool, whatever. There should be some sort of technology or just a way that kids can get marked down that they learn a certain way. Not every kid learns the same way. There's this famous quote, I think it was by Albert Einstein, but I could be wrong. It is, you could judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, but it will believe its whole life that it is stupid. And that's basically meaning that, like, you can't judge everybody on the same way of how they learn. And so there's some people that learn better through audio, there's some people that learn better through video, watching, and there's some people that learn better through tactile. Hands-on learning. And so I think that if we really want to do this right, then there should be some development of technology that can be able to really grasp all three of those things. We talked about the metaverse earlier. I think that there could be huge applications in that in school if they are able to provide headsets and whatnot to the students at school at scale for low cost, so that way we can apply it to as many students as possible, to where you could put the headset on. Wouldn't you rather, instead of reading a textbook about Jamestown, put the headset on and actually be in there? And there's like a guided tour, and you can watch events take place and stuff like that, versus just watching, a little video on the smart board and having to read 3 chapters in a textbook. I would much rather do that, especially if you're a visual learner. If you're an audio learner, you have the guided tour.
You'll pay attention and get more out of it.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, I would be in class every day.
Every damn day. Exactly. And that's why I think that, there can be great applications for a thing like the metaverse that can really change the education space. But we're not there yet. You still have, even in college, kids sitting in a lecture hall for an hour and a half, not doing anything digitally, just sitting there listening to a professor go on and on and on in subjects that some of these students don't even need to be taking for their degree.
See, my problem isn't necessarily with lectures still being a thing. I still think that they're necessary every once in a while. It's more like when it comes to just the individual problem solving for some of these classes, maybe learning English or math, is I really do think that we should start implementing AI to help students grow and learn faster.
Definitely. I think the algorithms could be changed. It's kind of like, have you ever used Quizlet?
Yes.
And so when Quizlet does a quiz thing, it cycles through and really starts to only show you the ones that you weren't doing as well on, so you could get better at those, questions or those vocabulary words. It's kind of like you said, there's nothing wrong with a lecture hall. The thing with the lecture hall, though, that's only good for audio learners. It's only good for however many percentage of people can only really take in and grasp audio learning very well. If you're a visual learner, just watching your professor is not going to be great. And even just a PowerPoint, I don't think does the job for a visual learner. You know, a PowerPoint doesn't do the job for an audio learner. And none of those do anything for people that are so much better being hands-on. I just remember myself, like, the reason why I was, you know, so good early on in school, you know, growing up in Korea was because every single class we had to do hands-on activities for every single thing that we did. And I loved it because that's the way that I learned. But in this day and age, they don't tailor it per person. And I think with AI, you could do that across the board for all types of learners, but then also for just different algorithms to see how you could better provide problems and questions and be able to help students get better. But we're not there yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would just be the best way to bridge the gap because every teacher has different learning style or teaching styles, and what may work for some students will not work for the others. So I think just implementing technology to bridge that gap would be huge.